War in the Western world now happens less on the battlefields and more in the offices of our leaders. Trade sanctions, aid sanctions, and financial sanctions are the tools of modern warfare, effectively stopping a battle before it starts. But sometimes this is not enough, and if a country wants to invade another, it will. However, here are 10 countries that have made this virtually impossible to do. Know before you go! Number 1. Canada. Canada shares its border with the USA, and the majority of its population resides along this border. Canada and the USA have a bilateral defense relationship, which means that any invading force that isn't the US would need to either invade America first or to sail through frozen seas, cross land in remote areas, and hike down through mountainous terrain in sub-zero temperatures before reaching the cities on the border, which by this time would probably be full of US troops. Number 2. Switzerland. Probably the most neutral of all the neutral countries. If it wasn't for the famous Swiss Army knife, you probably wouldn't think that Switzerland even had an army. Even though the Swiss army is highly trained and skilled and fully accustomed to fighting in their alpine country, they aren't the main reason that Switzerland would be impossible to invade. Switzerland's neutrality is the reason. This neutrality means that all its bordering countries are strong allies with no interest in invading. Thus, any invading force would have to take on Germany, France, Austria, and Italy first. Number 3. Japan. Japan has never been invaded. Although multiple attempts have been made in its history, no one has succeeded. Nowadays it would be impossible. Japan's air force is the most technologically advanced and the 5th largest in the world. Any invading force would have to arrive by sea and be bombarded throughout its approach. This would require a huge fleet of ships, aircraft, and aircraft carriers, something only the US military could achieve, and the cost of invasion would far outweigh the benefits. Number 4. Bhutan. This country is hidden away in the Himalayas, and you've probably never even heard of it. It has a small army of just 16,000 men, and yet it has never been invaded. It has one of the largest water reserves for hydroelectric power in the world and sells its power to India, which is why the Indian army also protects Bhutan. Invasion of Bhutan is impossible because of the combination of this protection from India, the high altitude, and complicated mountainous terrain, and also the fact that Bhutan has little tactical or economical benefits to merit invasion. Number 5. Israel. Israel has always been a country in dispute. In 69 years, it's had 8 wars and hasn't lost one. They say what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and the Israeli have proven that. They have the world's best missile defense system, named the Iron Dome, which uses Israeli missiles to shoot down enemy missiles before they reach their target. But Israel's biggest defense is its military. Every woman has to complete 2 years of military service, and every man has to complete 3. This means that even though the actual army is only 176,000 troops if needed, Israel could dispose of up to 4 million trained soldiers. Number 6. Russia. Throughout history, Russia has proved itself incredibly difficult to invade. From Napoleon to Hitler, all have been defeated and pretty much in the same manner. Russia is very big and very cold. Any invader has to travel long distances before finding a populated area, meaning they need a supply chain to feed and clothe their soldiers. The Russian tactic was to burn agricultural fields and food supplies that the invaders could use, thus making them entirely reliant on their own supply chain. Once the invaders were deep in Russian territory, the Russians attacked the supply chain, leaving the invading army stranded without food, clothes, or ammunition. Number 7. USA. North America is a massive landmass, close to 10 million square kilometers. An invading force would have to travel large distances through desert plains and sweltering heat and over snowy mountains in sub-zero cold. In addition to facing these extremes, they would also have to face one of the most advanced military forces in the world. The US spends over $700 billion a year on its military, which is more than any other country in the world and 3 times more than second place China. If this isn't enough for a deterrent, the US also has nearly 6,000 nuclear warheads. In addition to its highly trained and equipped military, you have its civilians, who may not be highly trained but are definitely armed. Number 8. North Korea. North Korea has more military than any NATO member apart from the USA, all concentrated in a country about the size of Pennsylvania. This means that any invading force would have to attack from all sides. Considering North Korea has borders with South Korea, Russia and China, as well as the Yellow Sea and the Sea of Japan, any attack would have to be a collaboration between multiple countries, and the death toll would be large. If you also believe the claims that they have nuclear capabilities, the risks of attempting an invasion are too high. Number 9. Iran. Yes, you may be thinking Gulf War, the Middle East, etc., but Iran hasn't actually been invaded since World War II. Although its military power is nothing to be laughed at, this isn't exactly the reason it's so hard to invade. Its mountainous terrain would be grueling on any invading force and lends itself well to ambushes. Add to this the Iranian government's claim of a network of underground missile bases under every city, and the task becomes nearly impossible. Number 10. Australia. Miles away from anywhere, an invading force's first problem would be getting there. In fact, Australia's closest viable invader is Japan, nearly 7,000 kilometers away, and they've been allies for decades. The second problem would be getting there without them knowing you're coming a month in advance. Even if you did get there without them noticing, Australia's population is mainly distributed along the coastline, so you'd have to fight around the whole circumference or conquer the entire outback. Did you enjoy this video? If so, give us a like and comment below.